Oh, good morning, everyone. It's so great to be here again for this new year with Science of Mind. Uh, our our topic today is Mind, the Greatest Discovery, and it's the second chapter of the Science of Mind textbook. And, of course, this is what we talk about all the time, right? Our mind. And at the beginning of the year, we go back to all those basic things that we know about religious science, but we oftentimes need a brush up. And for people who are new to religious science, this is an opportunity to really learn about this wonderful philosophy and these teachings. And of course, uh, Ernest Holmes said that he didn't come up with anything new, but he went through and pulled things together that all fit as truth. So he was a great synthesizer of the wisdom of the ages. And he was a great explorer of all of these teachings and all of these writings in his effort to find a thread of truth that ran through everything. And he was very successful at this because here we all are. We're reading what he wrote several decades after he has completed his work. So here we are this morning, looking at the mind. And I just want to encourage people to participate this morning. And I see that Ignacio Marcial is on. So, Ignacio, if you have any thoughts about what we're talking about this morning, please put them in the chat and let's have a discussion. And let's begin. So, this is chapter 2, Mind, the Greatest Discovery. And I'm hoping that my eyes are going to work this morning so I can read this to you. I'm having some technical difficulties this morning. My phone started going off and I have it on silent and it's still talking to me. So sorry about that. We're back on track here. Let me begin. And this first part of chapter 2 reads, Nature waits on man's self-recognition. Oh, and even that one sentence is really loaded because, it's self-recognition. So that means that nature, and all of the laws of nature wait on man's self-recognition. And I want you to forgive the language. It's an older usage of what was considered universal. So I will not change this here, but I want you to remember that this is an older kind of language and it means humanity. When every time it says man, it means humanity. So it's not gender specific. It doesn't mean anything other than humanity. And I may change it as I go along too, but I may not catch all of them. So that means that we are, when we first came into being, we were not self aware. And as soon as we began to come to consciousness and to recognize the self, then that is when things started rolling forward and evolving in a very powerful way because we became conscious. And that's a big discussion right now in all kinds of circles. We see the discussion of consciousness in psychology. We see the discussion of consciousness in social sciences. We see the discussion of consciousness in all the technological circles. And it's the big word, philosophy, everything. We talk about consciousness, and that's what we've been talking about from the beginning of this process of self-recognition. And he goes on to say, nothing is more apparent than that humanity, as it now appears, is the result of evolution. So remember, when he was writing this was during the period of, evolution had not come into the parlance of everyone quite yet. There was still a lot of contestation about whether or not evolution was the correct way to go. And if you remember, there was the Scopes monkey trial right around the time that Ernest Holmes was writing, and that Scopes monkey trial was about evolution, because people were very upset, saying that, God created the earth in 7 days. And, it was a very literal reading of the Bible. And in this country, people were not open to, or many people were not open to looking at a process, a process of creation. Creation was thought of as having a beginning and an end point, and everything was created. And in this teaching, we talk about evolution, and we also talk about creation as an ongoing process, that creation hasn't stopped. Creation is ongoing, and there's always something new being created by this powerful force that we call God. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it the universe. You can call it that ever creative force. I mean, there's 1,000 names for what we are looking at. And, just for ease's sake, I'm going to call it this morning God. But in order to evolve, humanity had to have a principle from which to unfold. Since humanity is intelligent, it must have evolved from an intelligent cause. Okay, one of the things that I'm going to talk about terms here. One of the things that God is called, I said there's 1,000 names for God, and one of those was first cause, and that has been in use for thousands of years. Uh, back during the Greek philosophers' time, they talked about first cause. They were concerned about that. They were wondering, well, where did all this come from? And we still wonder that today, right? We're still looking for that. Science has set out on this quest to really find out all of these questions and prove them scientifically in the material world. Now, for our part of this, we operate from the metaphysical standpoint. So we're not looking at materiality as much as we are looking at the invisible, that which can't be seen, that which can't be measured, that which can't be quantified in any way. And when we think about the infinite cannot be quantified, right? It's something that is beyond any type of calculation, and beyond really human comprehension. We can't comprehend the infinite. I know when someone says that they, talks about billionaires, I can't even comprehend being a billionaire. That's too many zeros for me. So infinity, is so vast and so unknown that we cannot comprehend that with the human mind. we can get the concept, kind of a glimpse of it, but we cannot see that as a reality, for us. We can't measure it. We can't do anything like that with it. So that first cause or intelligent cause is God, right? We're going to say God this morning. So I would encourage us to, kind of put away any kind of idea that we may have had about God and kind of open our minds to something that is so much bigger, so much more, in a way, abstract, but also so close and so that it touches us, So Ernest Holmes tells us in this very first paragraph that we are evolved from first cause or intelligent cause. So there's an intention behind it, right? It's intelligent. It has created all of this material universe out of itself. And because of that, we are that. We are that God stuff. So let's go to the second paragraph. In studying the order of humanity's evolution, it seems certain that it was necessary from the time that it was brought into the point of self-choice that humanity be left alone to discover its true nature. If humanity is endowed with the attributes of self-choice and free will, it must be allowed to make this great discovery for itself. Even God cannot make a mechanical individual. Consider any of nature's forces. They must have existed always, but so far as humanity is concerned, they exist to be used after it has discovered them and learned how to make use of them. Electricity was a reality in the universe when Moses led the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. But neither Moses nor any of his followers knew anything about it. This is true of all natural laws. They have always existed, but only when understood may they be used. In this way, life waits upon humanity's discovery of natural laws, his discovery of himself, and his discovery of his relationship to the great whole. Oh, that is certainly, contains a lot. It is so amazing to think of this in terms of coming to consciousness. A lot of this, our philosophy is a very practical philosophy too. Even though we're talking about these metaphysical things, he brings it back down. Ernest Holmes brings it back down to, the discoveries that we make of natural laws. So this is a bringing together of science, that materiality, and metaphysics. So bringing those two together, we're looking at consciousness and all of these things that are available in the universe, the abundance of the universe, discoveries that we have not even dreamed of yet, and even those discoveries that we've dreamed of but have not been able to actually bring to manifest yet. Those are all pre-existent. They all exist already in creation. And this creation is ongoing. So this gets kind of complicated in a way, right? Knowing that there's all this pre-existing and it's also ongoing because these things come together in new and different ways. It's almost like a kaleidoscope, right? We can see that kaleidoscope move, and it has uh, a certain number of parts that create patterns, but as they move, they change. They are different. But if we think about infinity, there's infinite possibility, right? It's infinite possibility that are coming together in different ways, different new ways throughout creation. So this is so amazing to even comprehend a little bit. And I like the use of electricity because we're thinking a lot about electricity lately. And of course, that was a great discovery for humanity to learn and harness electricity. I'm coming to you this morning because of electricity, right? Of this movement of electrons uh, across distances, vast distances, and this communication that we are able to have as a result of electricity. And it always existed, but we've learned how to use it. And it is one of the greatest discoveries of all time because it's allowed us to learn more about ourselves, to kind of to remake society in so many ways, to be able to have machines that are like computers, all our appliances, everything. It's a very practical thing, and it's a natural part of the universe that we have learned to use. And let's look at this too. The principle of any science is invisible, theoretical, as is our idea of spirit. So, one of the things I appreciate um, about Ernest Holmes is that he does give us this window into bringing together all parts of the whole, our experience, right? And science and metaphysics, bringing those together. I appreciate that so much about him. And theoretical, right? I mean, a lot of what we talk about is theoretical. You know, we have ideas about God, and we try to prove those ideas. And the proof oftentimes is a knowledge that when we pray or do our spiritual practice, there is an effect that occurs. There's something that happens, it works. So that is our theory and practice of religious science, or what we believe. And he goes on to say, no one has seen intelligence, we experience it. No one has ever seen causation, we see what it does. We deal with its effects. We do not see beauty. The artist feels beauty and depicts it as best he can. And the result of the artist's effort is what we call the beautiful. And I'm just going to piggyback on this. And, you know, I stopped when I read this earlier. I thought, well, you know, that's interesting. That's an interesting point that we do not see beauty. The artist feels beauty and depicts it the best that they can. And I started thinking about some of the artwork that I've been looking at recently. And one of the art pieces that I've looked at, I love birds. You know, I'm a real bird person. So I've been looking at an artist who does watercolors of birds. And I guess I was kind of, not thinking about, um, I was thinking more about the technical aspects of it. And when I started looking at these watercolor paintings, which is it's a medium that gives impressions, and it has different kinds of, the way that it's used gives impressions. It's not, and I suppose all kinds of artwork is like this, but watercolor somehow has this kind of feeling of, kind of pointing towards something rather than, a fine depiction of it, very, very detailed, although you can do that, but very, very detailed. It's more, an impression or an imprint of, that which is being depicted. And the artist sees something, and then out of what they feel, well, they feel it, and out of that feeling comes this beauty. And these paintings that I saw, I looked at one painting and immediately I knew what it was. It was a painting of, I think there were 3 owls gathered, and it was incredibly beautiful, but it was more an impression and the feeling. It captured the feeling of those owls. And it was an amazing watercolor of owls. So, I really stopped in my tracks there because, uh, the beauty was brought forward by that artist for me to experience with the artist what the artist feels as they are looking at something. They're perceiving something. And that perception goes deeper than merely seeing it, right? The perception goes much deeper than that. It is the actual experience of that encounter that is put on the page. So I was kind of blown away by that, thinking about it. And, that's a part of this holistic thinking that Ernest Holmes encourages in us. Let's look at the whole. Let's take a really good look at the whole. Let's experience it. Let's don't go through life just half half awake, or asleep. Let's experience it. And experience is really big for us. We believe in experience. We believe that only through human experience do we come to know who we are. We can't read it in a book, although books help point the direction. We can't get it from somebody else, right? And anyone who has, we've all been children, we've all had parents, we've had parents who've given us the wisest advice ever, and we've just poo-pooed it and said, oh, well, we'll do what we want. And we have to experience it before we can learn it, before we can actually come to know it, and to feel it ourselves. So, fortunately, that's not true for everything. Of course, we can come to wisdom and act on that wisdom, but so often we have to experience things firsthand before we really can incorporate that into our life. And, seeing this in action and experiencing it is the only way that we can come to know God as well, through experience. People can talk about God, people can say this is the way that it is. And I'm I'm just going to recognize Fiona right now. And she says the purpose of my painting is to share the numinous as I experience it. And that is so awesome. Thank you, Fiona. That is just so awesome. Uh, you know, I so appreciate what you do, and I know that that's what we do with all of our work. We try to convey that numinous, and the numinous, of course, is that spiritual experience, right? The experience of God in that moment. Yes, thank you so much, Fiona. So the first great. Oh, thank you, Fiona from Geneva. Thank you so much. So the first great discovery was that humanity could think, right? Uh, Humanity can think. And it's kind of hard to imagine that we were at some point not knowing that we could think. And Dawn, thank you so much. Knowing comes through experience. Yes, it does. That's how we really take that in and embody it, right? When we experience something. Someone can describe something to us. People can describe it to us. They can tell us this is what happened and go on and on about it. But until we experience it ourselves, we don't have the same sort of knowing. And our knowing may be a little bit different than another person who's experienced something. We may experience it a little bit different and add to our body of knowledge. And knowledge can move into wisdom, right? Knowledge is something, and wisdom is something else, which is wonderful. Wisdom is that which is eternal, that eternality. Knowledge is building, and wisdom is that eternality. And thank you, Roy, for joining us from Fort Morgan, Colorado. It's all snowed in. Thank you so much. So when we realized that we could think, right? It's kind of hard to imagine that, but just imagine the stories that we've been told. Um, One of the stories from my people, the Muskogee people, is that we were wandering in a fog, and we didn't know exactly where we were, who we were, where we were going. And when that fog lifted, we were able to see others and see ourselves. And for me, that's a coming to consciousness. That's not just about migrating here or migrating there. It's not that physicality. It is that a depiction of that coming to consciousness, that everything was just a fog, nothing was clear, and we came to consciousness, and we were able to see others and see ourselves. So that self-awareness occurred, and we realized that we were here. And that is that action of the great I am. So if we are first cause, we have that great I am in us, in us. So that is an awesome kind of coming to consciousness that we are at this point. We're realizing this more and more, that we are God sees us as more than worthy. God experiences us as a part of it, an integral part of it, and it loves us. It loves us. So this is a coming to this knowledge that we are a part of it. It is in us and we are in it, was the first step for us to move into evolution, into this evolutionary stream, conscious. And I'm just touching my head because that's where we think consciousness is at times. But it's not there. It's all around us. It is that God stuff that works its magic, always. And Lou TZ, I'm not sure how to say your name, so I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. And yes, I love that idea of spreading your wings to fly and truly live in freedom. And that's what we're talking about. As we come into consciousness, this is what allows us to be free. When we were unconscious, just like, like the story says, living in this fog, how frightening would that be? Not to know, just to be buffeted around by the external forces around us, not knowing that we have, oh, Louise, great, okay. Not knowing where we're going, not knowing that we have a choice, not knowing that we are free. We are free. Yes, there are external things, factors around us. Our circumstances do create something around us, but we have choices that we can always make. And oftentimes, that choice is just to know that we are free already. We are already free, and act on that. That freedom also means that we have to be at a certain point in order to experience freedom to its fullest. That means that we are coming into this consciousness in a way that brings us to the point where we understand that we are a part of this whole. And when we see other people, we are responsible to them as well. They are us and we are them. And through that love, we don't run amok. We take into consideration the whole. What we do is freedom to do the highest and best for all. And Louise, I love your metaphors with the birds, and that is a very good metaphor. Thank you for sharing that with us. That kind of that image of the egg and the hatching of consciousness in that flight. Another analogy that I often use, and to me it's very powerful, is that we have we put birds in cages, right? Humans put birds in cages, and when that bird is set free, that open door, and that bird flying free is also that wonderful image. So I appreciate what you're saying about the birds. Thank you. So let's get back to Ernest Holmes. And so Ernest Holmes says, as a result of humanity realizing they could think, they've built up great civilizations. And of course, that thinking, uh, it's kind of amazing, to think about how we, as human beings, came to use tools, right? And just well, in the past 30 years, 50 years or so, people have observed that chimpanzees and other primates use tools. And we can just imagine what it was like when the first human picked something up. It probably was a stone or maybe a stick, and started using that as a tool. And, that thought process was going on, right? Oh, if I use this, I can do this. If I use this stick, I can reach up and get the fruit from this tree, right? Or whatever it might have been. Or if I use this rock, I can break open these nuts, right? If I use this rock, I can grind these seeds and make them fine so that we can eat them. All kinds of things, right? And that is a thought process, to use tools. And just think about this. Oh my goodness, thinking about every discovery from those most basic things. And remember, those basic things are really awesome. The Stone Age may get a bad rap, but people lived pretty good in the Stone Age. They did things that lived in a pristine environment, and were able to forage and live from all the bounty of nature. And then it started to grow, right? It started to grow, that use of tools. And it started to get more complicated, right? More complicated in terms of our experiences that went into our human storehouse of experience and knowledge and sometimes wisdom. So let's go on to the next discovery. And I guess it may have, he's saying that it was taken as a matter of fact. And it is a matter of fact that we can think, right? Just knowing that we can think. And Rene Descartes said, I I think, therefore I am, right? And that was acknowledging subjectivity. We are, these thinking subjects, acknowledging that, knowing that we think. We're not just um, unfeeling, unthinking creatures. We think. And now human beings are studying different creatures, sea creatures, land creatures, invertebrates, all of them, right? And discovering that there is thought processes throughout the animal kingdom. And now, even consciousness is being uh, explored in terms of other living things. So this is a subject matter that is huge. Mind. What is mind? And where does it reside? For us, it resides everywhere. It is not just located in the brain, right? It's not just those electrical impulses working in our brain. It works through the brain, but consciousness is not the brain. That's where we differ. We have a different idea than many of the scientists who study consciousness. Memory. So look at this. Memory. Memory must be the storehouse of all ideas that have passed through my mind. Memory is active, for my thoughts come back to me. My thought is conscious of my body. My body is operated upon by my thought, and it must be operated upon by my memory, since memory is active. But since memory is the result of conscious thought, memory itself is an unconscious operation of what once was a conscious thought. This is one of the most important conclusions which the mind of man has ever made. By changing his thought, he could remold his affairs, and by right thinking, he could bring new conditions into his life. And he has a tremendous with an exclamation point. And this is, I think, the most important part of this chapter. We can go into more depth about mind, the nature of mind. And when we think about memory, all of us have memory, right? We have memory, we have things that work on us from a subconscious level that create good things for us, and sometimes they create problems for us. And we can change those thoughts that are creating problems for us, and we can change our life. So this is the most important discovery for us in healing, in the way that we live our lives. And we all know there's things that come up for us or there's things that we do that we don't know why we're doing them. But when we uncover what that belief is, it may have happened in childhood that we developed a belief, and it's working subconsciously. It's active, it's a memory, and it became something that runs our life. And it seems like we're out, we have no control over it. We just allow it to run. But as soon as we pinpoint that errant thought, then we can correct it and replace it with a thought that is closer to reality. And we move closer and closer to reality as we align with God. And that's our whole work within religious science. We are aligning ourselves with the great I am. We are coming to know it. We are evolving this consciousness so that we not only have God working through us, we are allowing God to work as us. And that perfect alignment brings us into the fullness of life. And, that's what I want to leave us with today, that our mind, everything about our mind is much larger than any one individual. It is the mind of God. We limit it. We limited it, right? But we can have it all if we open our minds and hearts to aligning ourselves with spirit. So this morning, I just want to thank you all for being here. And I love this Saturday morning. It's a wonderful way to start my day. And I hope you find that is the same for you. And if you're joining us internationally, you're at a different time. And, it's also a reminder that, we live in on such an incredible planet. And we also live in this marvelous universe filled with wonder and filled with joy. So I love all of you, and please join us next week. And remember, we appreciate all the donations that we get, and please feel free to, if you are enjoying this program, to support it so that we can come back and bring this to you every week. So love you all. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Choice.